Hey, Assalamu alaikum. I am Minal Fatma and my registration number is 21CP55 along with my group mate Subhana Amir 21CP103 and Muniza Babar 21CP31. Our project for object oriented programming is a 2D snake game based in Java. Muniza Babar will be telling you about the complete introduction of the game, what our game is about. Subhana Amir will be telling you about the classes we have in the whole program, and I'll be briefing you about the whole code.
The 2D snake game is a classical arcade game where the player controls a snake moving around a rectangular grid. The objective is to eat as much food as possible and grow the snake length without colliding with the boundaries of the grid or the snake. It's their own body. The game consists of several components which implement as an object. First of all, snake. The snake objective represents the player controller snake. It maintains its current position, direction and length. अच्छा, snake जो move कर सकता है वो हमारे पास 4 डायरेक्शन है उसकी. फर्स्ट अप, डाउन, लेफ्ट एंड राइट. और जैसे जैसे स्नेक जो है वो अपना फूड जो है ईट करेगा उसकी growth of length increase हो जाएगी. Second is food. The food object represent the food item that appear randomly on the grid. The snake need to move over a food item to it. When the snake eat the food, जब snake जो है अपना food eat करेगा, then it's increase its length and a new food item is randomly placed on the grid. Third is grid. What is grid? The grid object represent a game area. Basically जो grid होता है उसको वो game का जो area होता है उसको हम कहते हैं, which is rectangular grid. It keep track of the snake position and the position of the food item and also boundaries of the grid. And it also check for collision between the snake food and collision होती है हमारे इसके दरमियान के snake food and grid boundaries के दरमियान. कि snake अपनी boundaries के अलावा बाहर कहीं नहीं जा सकता. Otherwise it ended. Fourth is game. The game object act as a main controller for the game. It initialize the grid, snake and food objective, handle user input to control the snake movement and update the state. जैसे जैसे snake खाता update करता रहेगा हमें, and by moving the snake checking for the collision and updating the score हमें update करता रहेगा scores के बारे में कि अब इस वक्त उसने जितना food eat कर लिया तो उसके लिहाज से उसका जो score है वो क्या है. The game loop continuously update the game state and render the graphic of the provider smooth gameplay experience. अच्छा, the player also control the snake using keyboard input to change its direction. The game end if the snake collide with the grid, यानी कि गेम एंड हो जाएगी जब स्नेक जो है अपनी ग्रिड से बाहर जाएगा. बाउंड्रीज इट देयर ऑन बॉडी, उसकी बॉडी जब टच करेगी ग्रिड को, देन इट्स एंड द गेम. द 2D snake game implement in Java using OP provide an enjoyable and challenging game experience, testing the player reflexes and strategic thinking.
We have made a public class with the name snake game, and in that public void function, that is main जो function है हमारा, उसमें हमने arguments पास कराए हैं. सही है. अब हमने एक new instance यहाँ पे create किया with the name snake game. अब हमारी पहली क्लास थी स्नेक गेम, इसके अंदर हमने एक इंस्टेंस बनाया न्यू का इंस्टेंस गेम फ्रेम वाला. अब जो हमारे पास दूसरी क्लास हमने बनाई है वो है गेम फ्रेम की. अब इसमें हमारे पास जो सबसे पहले import java.swing. ये हमने हेडर फाइल लिया है. इसमें ये हमारे पास क्या करता है, इट इज यूज्ड टू import the packages which has been built in the classes. ठीक है. अब हमने यहाँ पे this का फंक्शन यूज किया. the function this dot is used to omit the confusions between the classes. अब this dot add, this dot set title, this dot, we have set all these for the वो जो स्नेक गेम की हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट्स है उसके लिए. अब हमारे जो थर्ड जो हमारे पास क्लास है वो है हमारे पास गेम पैनल. अब गेम पैनल में हमने यहाँ पे मेथड्स और क्लासेस इंट्रोड्यूस करवाई हैं.
All of the methods that we need. So after our constructor, we created a method called start game. So public void start game. Another method called paint component. So public void paint component, and then as a parameter we set it up graphics G, and then we'll have draw method. So public void draw and parameters graphic G. Alright, just a few more. We need a move function. So here we added a move function. So public void move. So snake move according to the rules, at least. I guess the snake eats apple. So that's basically how you score a point. So we'll have a method check apple. I don't know why they called it apple, but okay, whatever. We'll want to check for any collisions. So we have public void check collisions. And then we'll want a game over method. So public void game over methods. So public void game over, and we set up a parameter of graphics G. Then we have our action performed method, and lastly we have to create an inner class that we created here. So public class, my key adapter, extends key adapter, and then this will just have one method. So added a note that we are overriding a method, so an override, and the method is public void key pressed and the parameter is key event. Make sure you get everything related to Java, AWT, and all we are adding. So here we completely make sure that we have everything imported from Java, AWT, Java AWT event, Java Xstring, and all. Before the constructor declared everything that we are going to need for this program, we began with the screen we made. This static final in screen underscore weight and set this up to 1300. Did same thing for screen height. So static final in screen height. Alright, so with the snake, we kind of have these things called units. I would say we have some sort of matrix, like how big do we want the object in our game. So we call this unit size, and it will make more sense when we actually create a visible game panel, which we have actually created. And then moving toward the static final int unit size. So how big do we want the objects in this game, and then we want to calculate how many objects we can actually fit on the screen. So static final int, and we call this game underscore units, and what we set this equal to screen underscore width times screen underscore height, and then just divide this with size of units, so unit underscore size, and then created a delay for our timer that we are going to implement later. So static final int delay, and when we tested this, 175 was fairly quick, so the higher the number for your delay, the slower the game is, and vice versa. For this next part, we created two arrays, an array called x and another called y. These arrays are going to hold all of the coordinates for all the body parts of our snake, including the head of the snake. So we created two arrays, final int x equals new int, and for the size of this array, we just set this to whatever our game unit is. Because the snake isn't really going to be bigger than the game itself, and then created another array called y. So this array is going to hold all of the x coordinates of the body parts, including the head of our snake, and this one is going to hold all of the y coordinates, and then set the initial amount of body parts we want for the snake. So and body parts, and maybe it's fair enough 6. So we begin with 6 body parts on the snake and declared an integer called apples eaten, and this will initially be 0. Then int apple x, this is the x coordinate of where the apple is located, and it's going to appear randomly each time the snake eats an apple. And int apple y for the y positioning. When we want a direction, we can easily do this with a character value. So for character car direction, and we can initialize this to something or set this to something. So we made the snake begin going right when we start the game. So we'll have R for right, L for left, U for up, or D for down. So I'm just going to have the snake begin by going right, and then we want a boolean value called running, and we set this to false to begin with, then declare a timer called timer, and an instance of random class called random, and that is everything that we need to declare. Before the constructor, moving forward, to the constructor next, and the first thing did is finish creating this instance of the random class. So random equals new random, and we set the preferred size for this game panel. So this dot set preferred size, and we passed in a dimension. But we just said new dimension, and then within the parenthesis of new dimension, we passed in some arguments such as screen width and screen height. So screen width and screen height, and then the background color. We set it the background color to black, and we set it the focusability. So this dot set focusable true. We're going to add a key listener. So this dot add key listener, and we added to create a new my key adapter. Alright, so when we finish constructing this game panel, we go to call start game method. So start our start game method that will have new apple then running is equal to timer. New timer delay is the delay we added at the start, and timer dot start. Then we have public void paint component method with the parameter graphic g that is having super dot paint component, and then draw g. Further we have public void draw method, and it have a condition if the game is running. Then we commented out the grid we made for the better understanding of the game while making it. Then g dot set color is equal to red, and that's all for the apple we have in our game. Then moving toward the snake for loop we added, and all that is basically for the snake. We have the color we have for snake is some random colors, and the way how we'll fill that rectangle, the shape of that snake we have is kind of rectangle. And then we have the set color red font we have, and that's all we have for the score that will be printed when our snake gonna eat those apples. Else the condition we have is game over. If the game is not running, that's game over. Then that's something I missed while describing methods. Public void new apple. When an apple is eaten, we actually need a new apple on screen, and also when a game starts we need a new apple on screen. So we have a method new apple, and where that apple will be placed, that's random, that's totally random. And we moving toward the public void move, how that our snake will move. So we initialized all that. Then we have a switch that describes when we move up, down, left or right, how that snake gonna behave. Further we have public void check apple method that gonna check for the apple when the snake gonna eat the apple. Itself is increase. That's all that method gonna check. Then the game will end in case of collision. We have public void check collision method. For that we have two conditions. Is the snake going to is colliding with the snake itself, like with its own body, or with the boundaries or the borders. So for border we have a lot of cases, that left, right, top border and bottom border, and for all that we describe that snake have to stop running in all those cases. And then we have game over methods. Actually when it collides, the game have to be over, And here we have game over method, and we described the game over text, color, and all those things in this method. And lastly, we have public void action performed. If the game is running, move, check apple, check collision, all of them gonna be executed. And lastly, public class my key adapter extends key adapter, where it is completely described how the snake is gonna move. If the direction is not equal to right, it will move left. If the direction is not equal to left, it will move right, and so on. Here our code ends. We have one thing here, our snake color. We can have any kind of snake color. Here we added some random colors, and we'll show you the complete output at the end. Thank you.